All right, it's in between. I told the guys we are living in a world that just this past week did the announcement come out. Was it this
Monday.
past week? So James Gunn and Peter Safran's discussion and idea for the DC universe, what they're going to do with the films, calling it Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters. A couple of quotes that I found real quick from that. One of our strategies is to take our diamond characters, which are Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, and we use them to prop up other characters that people don't know. And Safran added to build those lesser-known properties into the diamond properties of tomorrow. Pretty smart strategy. I'm going to say right away, as somebody that likes DC more than I like Marvel, not that I dislike Marvel, I like this idea that they're going to kind of do. They're not going to be afraid to do, in a way, what Marvel did
with the lower tier characters first. Hang on, I got to put Gertie back up.
If I look at Marvel and I'm an exec, and the easiest thing to market, probably at that time, I think might have been Spider-Man. That's probably there at that point before the Marvel universe begins. Spider-Man might be their most popular character, and just the nomenclature of society.
But unfortunately, they sold off the rights to Sony at the time. Yeah.
But then they actually begin that world with Iron Man, who is not an unknown character, but is not the most known.
At the time, yes.
At that time. Now, very different. But I think that's a pretty smart idea of them. We're going to use these people to introduce others. So we go down a whole list.
And then what I did see, as you're reading this, is he said... He gave like some examples of properties that inspired this. He goes, but we're not necessarily telling these stories.
Right.
We're using these as inspiration. And so when they talk about this Supergirl or Woman of Tomorrow, doesn't mean they're necessarily going to tell that story. They might use the
It's
themes.
informing where they begin from. So
we'll start there. All right.
The thing that it says, and I'm going to go through a number of things, and we'll come back to it. I'm going to name every property. But we're going to come back to the lesser-known ones when I'm done. So it begins with Superman Legacy, which he's writing and directing, James Gunn. The Authority, The Brave and the Bold, which is the Batman title. Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, Swamp Thing. In what I think may be the genius stroke, every actor signing onto a property agrees to do
across
film,
medium,
television, podcast, whatever
video
they decide
games,
it is, they are in everything. So then we have Creature Commandos, Waller, Booster Gold, Lanterns, and Paradise Lost. So let's skip back to the top. The Authority.
So The Authority was created by, and this is weird, Warren Ellis and Brian Hitch. Warren Ellis is a little bit of a hot button topic because he had some issues come out about him, so I'm a little surprised about that. But it's basically a pastiche on the Justice League. You have, and this is not derogatory, it's what it is. You have a Superman Batman in there, but they're lovers. You have a character that's the spirit of whatever century you're in. So when it came out, it was the spirit of the 20th century, and she was electricity based. And then while it was published, it became the 21st century, so it became the spirit of the 21st century, and it was Jenny Quantum, so it's more about quantum mechanics and stuff like that. Then you had a guy who was the god of all the cities, and then you had a guy that's kind of a magician, that's all the magicians of all the worlds and all time. And you had like this lady that had all technology. But it was kind of like a Justice League, a take on the Justice League. So it's weird that they're introducing a Justice League ripoff and before they have a Justice League.
But it's also an interesting, brave choice to do that.
So you're going to have a Superman there that's not Superman. You're going to have a Batman there that's not Batman. But then you're also going to have a Batman and Superman. So it's just kind of strange that they're doing that to me. I don't know.
I think the part that I'm kind of rereading some of the piece on this. The thing that he says is that I will say that Flash, the movie that comes out in June, is probably one of the greatest superhero movies ever made. Mm-hmm. He says that out of the Flash.
And that report has been there for a long time.
Everybody keeps saying that, yeah.
And he also says Flash resets everything.
Yes.
Because he did say that Blue Beetle isn't connected to anything.
So he says Flash resets everything, probably one of the greatest superhero makes, but they're still going to keep Wonder Woman, Aquaman, and Shazam.
Yeah.
As those actors and those movies.
That he's not committing to that, but what he says is they fit. I think that was his exact quote somewhere. There was no commitment because even Variety talked about that. There's no verbal commitment.
True. There's no reason any of these characters or the actors playing those characters are not part of the DCU. There's nothing prohibits them from that happening. So what what I think is, you're right. He's saying these 4 movies are terrific: Wonder Woman, Aquaman, and Shazam. There's no reason the characters are actually going to play. And he's also going to continue with Waller and with Peacemaker.
Yeah.
Right. His Suicide Squad movies.
So
But
obviously some of the old DC.
But he doesn't expressly say Suicide Squad is coming back, or if it's in this movie.
I think
realm.
he said that some of the characters from Peacemaker 2 will be in Waller, is what he said.
So what I'm curious about is Flash resetting stuff.
Yeah.
Is it going to allow for our Spider-Man No Way Home scenario where Peter Parker meets Peter Parker meets Peter Parker?
Yeah.
Right? Is Gal Gadot and Jason Momoa and Shazam able to exist because their character is in other universes and he's still going to create his own? But it's a weird also wiping of everything Snyder.
Yeah.
Oh, it is.
Well,
and I think you almost have to. You have to do some sort of reset way to say that. But at the same time,
well, they said they're doing Elseworlds basically, so you can have a Snyderverse Elseworlds because they're going to have the Joker out there, and they're going to have the Batman
that's a very smart
too.
move. The Batman is, for me as a Batman freak, is probably one of the best detective versions of Batman that I've seen represented on a screen. Why get rid of it?
Yeah.
Why not acknowledge that, hey, we can have these? Your audience is so knowledgeable at this point that I don't think that's hard for them to understand. Hey, this Batman is a standalone Batman. It's not going to be the one that now, and probably one of the things that excites me most. Let's introduce a Robin. Let's make him a kid. Yeah. Let's be brave about that.
He's going to be an asshole.
But let's make him Damian Wayne, which if those people out there don't know, is not a good kid.
Right.
He's a murdering psychopathic dipshit. It's like, but it lends itself to telling a father-son story. We don't get the father-son story between Alfred and Bruce. Now we're truly going to get what has Bruce learned and become that. That's a pretty interesting approach.
But it also means we're moving into, we're getting a young Superman, we're moving into a mature Batman. Maybe not necessarily Batman versus Robin, Justice League mature Batman, but definitely a person who's a father at this particular point.
Right.
Which makes you wonder how long he's been Batman.
Yeah, I bet say Joe Quesada would hate it because he always wanted to reset everybody that was married and have kids, take them back.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so that's why Spider-Man got his marriage undone by Mephisto and all that stuff.
In talking about this,
I'm going to see what's going on. Sorry.
In talking about this announcement to our podcasting audience, but not having seen the Flash film, some answers may come of knowing what the Flash does. He says it resets everything. Okay, so what does that encompass? He's not talking about Ezra Miller.
Right.
He's not talking about the Flash. For all we know, Ezra Miller may be writing for the movie. Might write Ezra Miller out as a Flash character.
True.
Right. It'll be I like his.
Well, I mean, if they need another Flash character, I think there's an actor out there who might be looking for a job.
Who are we talking about?
The guy that plays a Flash on the TV show, since that's shutting down this season.
Yeah.
The Paradise Lost. It's a Game of Thrones style about Themyscira, but it takes place before the birth of Wonder Woman.
But at the same time, I find that interesting. Let's
some backstory.
Let's try something new. Let's tell these stories.
If they're crossing mediums and all that stuff, you can set up villains and stuff in here that pay off in other. This starts off with a TV show. You pay it off in a movie, or you pay it off in a video game or a cartoon. I don't know.
And then by introducing Swamp Thing, and there's talk that James Mangold, who's finishing up the current Indiana Jones and is really a solid director, may take that on. So you're already attracting top tier
magic kind of stuff in there.
What I do find, what I'm curious about is the kind of the slate that he is talking about, kind of launching with. And let me go back up to the top. We're talking about Superman Legacy, A Brave and the Bold, and Swamp Thing feature, as well as The Authority. We have the Lanterns and Booster Gold happening as well. He's not. This does not sound like he's building towards a Justice League per se. It sounds like he's telling stories in this universe.
He's building a universe,
correct? Not a. We're going to introduce Iron Man.
Not a team.
We're going to introduce Captain America. Right. We're going to introduce Hulk. We're going to do these kinds of things to get there. It sounds like he's allowing for some of these things to already exist, so that when he wants to do one. I was telling Sean this week, The Authority. Have you read The Authority before?
No, I've not.
One of the things that I think is interesting.
I think you've got some of my stuff. When you finish it, I'll trade it out with you so you can read that.
I do, and I need to get to that. I've been reading other stuff.
Let's see, what does he say about The Authority? It's down here. He says, there's a great Wildstorm characters that were popular for a long time incorporating the DCU. He loves them because they're a mix of anti-heroes who take matters into their own hands despite what the government advises.
They're the Justice League if the Justice League didn't sit around and wait for stuff to happen.
Okay.
And if the Justice League didn't have any scruples
Yeah.
or principles,
They'll go. They would say.
And this is the Wildstorm stuff.
the
right?
Midnighter Batman character will mutilate you.
Yeah,
Okay.
they'll go. The example is if it was Iraq, they would go in and kick the shit out of Saddam Hussein.
Well, they would assassinate him.
Yeah.
They would
But
kill
see,
him.
immediately, but I think by introducing that makes this world interesting because you're kind of getting maybe this. What do they call their gods and what?
Monsters.
Gods and monsters. Maybe the monsters are the unchecked bits of power and things like that. And I think that's a pretty interesting idea
Yeah.
to explore.
So that's actually what I
Richard
was
said.
going with Sean. I said, you introduce a powerful super group.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're not as pornographic as The Boys, if you've watched The Boys, right? But it's a group of heroes that are still doing the right thing, doing them their own way. They have no problem assassinating dictators. They have no problem.
They're in justify the means.
And they typically handle more kind of cosmic
stuff,
big global stuff as opposed to smaller things. They don't fight supervillains per se. But as a basis, superheroes love to hit superheroes when they first meet. There's no reason that the Justice League can't form as a principled version of the Authority. They see what the Authority's doing wrong. They don't necessarily have to take down the Authority's villains, but they recognize that they have to be better.
Right.
And because of this example, maybe the Authority screws up and the Justice League has to come together because of it. I think it's a way to get to a Justice League if they want to.
I think that one of the things Gunn said too, and forgive me, I don't remember the name of the cartoon, but there was a Justice League cartoon that went along with Batman animated series, the Superman thing, and was it just
Justice League.
Yeah.
Justice League and the Justice League Unlimited.
Unlimited
yeah.
was the one and he said the storytelling there is the type that we're trying to build. And I think if you look at that, and I think where by jumping into the Snyderverse and just making, going for Batman and Superman battling right away sets the wrong tone for that story. Instead of learning, they begin fighting with each other instead of learning to work together at first, then that falling apart and becoming something you don't understand. It seems like with this, that you're going to make people slowly chip away, and what I'm doing with my hands is I'm looking at, you're building a little bit of a ladder as they learn these lessons and go along, and how do I be a better person? And I think then if you even look at Damian Wayne, same kind of story. How do you become a better person? It's not just heroic, it's human. And I think that's a pretty interesting approach. Booster Gold. I've never read a Booster Gold comic. I know, isn't he kind of like a moron?
So
No, he's not a moron. He was I want to say a janitor in the 31st century, and he stole a technology in a time bubble and came back in time.
and used a power ring and a power ring to
Be a
flight suit
superhero.
and a suit and kind of basically a suit that allowed him to have.
But
be a
he
superhero.
also wants to make money off it. He's not stupid. He
Okay.
needs to live. So maybe he takes corporate sponsors every now and then, or puts a patch on
little
his.
bit of the boys.
He
in
wanted,
that
he wanted to
too.
go back and be a he wanted to be a
and then-
superhero in
and
the
they-
romantic era of
and it's-
superheroes.
yeah,
And
in the
so he
golden
stole
age of
technology and went
superheroes.
back there, and he's willing to make some money on it because he's kind of
He kind of fucks up every now and then. Yeah. He's
So
not
we
perfect.
also have the Lanterns that's going to have Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart as a buddy cop team up.
What?
But and Gunn said
They're-
the
they're-
Lanterns really are like
they're
the
space
galaxy's cops.
They are. They're the galaxy's police force, right?
Okay.
And they're in DC Comics, they're largely treated as people who fight supervillains, right? But when you actually look at what their role is in the universe, it is
They're space
basically
cops.
they're space cops.
I think if you go watch that Green Lantern with Ryan Reynolds, there is no greater proof of, hey, here's a guy that's really talented. By the way, he'll eventually be Deadpool and be fucking perfect for what he does there. Why did they put him in that movie? I actually, that was
because he-
on not long ago. I was like, oh.
Well, I mean,
It was a
didn't-
passion project
didn't-
for him too.
It was,
it
yeah,
he really liked Green Lantern.
But didn't they also say that they wanted to make it like The Mask? Wasn't
Yeah.
that one of the earlier things
was
they're
it
saying?
really?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
they wanted it. They wanted him to be goofy and ridiculous and be kind of Mask-esque. I mean, it was just
So
it's a bunch of jumble of bad
the
ideas.
thing with the Green Lanterns is the whole universe is divided up into 3,600 sectors, and every sector has a Green Lantern.
Okay.
That take care of that sector. Earth has 5 Green Lanterns. Earth always ends up with as many Green Lanterns as one.
because we're just fucked up.
Because you got Hal, Guy,
you got John.
John.
You've
you
got, Jessica.
Jessica. You got Teen Lantern. You know.
I'm
whichever-
forgetting the other one.
We're forgetting. Oh, we got Alan Scott, who is a Green Lantern from the Golden Age, but is not a Green Lantern of
He has
this.
a- he has a
different
magical
magical
ring, not
ring made out of a meteorite. Yeah. So
I find it in all this. The one
Simon
thing,
Baz was the one.
Simon Paz, yeah,
and Joe Moline, the one who MK.
Oh yeah, the that goes into the forbidden sector or whatever. Yeah.
the one thing that I kept expecting in the announcement was Martian Manhunter, because it seems like Warner Brothers has wanted to find a way. If you look at the Snyder
squeeze
things
him
that were
in
cut,
somehow.
they want him in there, and he's also a pretty compassionate story to put in there. I was a little surprised that he also did say this is not all of the announcements.
All the
There's
stuff.
more to come.
Yeah, there's more to come.
I will be shocked if they don't find a way to put him in there.
That'll be.
I'm just ready to get a couple of projects out. I mean, that's
You
kind
want
of
to see what
I need
actually
to see
happens
what we're
first.
doing first.
Yeah, because people say all these were announced.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing until they're actually released. You're not going to believe it, because look at Batgirl. I mean, even though they're saying Batgirl was unreleasable, or whatever.
Yeah, but Batgirl is okay.
But, I mean,
again,
you
in
can
the
have-
history of film, it is an anomaly because it is used as a tax write-off. I don't think that it is. I look at it was a bad business decision for whatever reason they did it, but then the stock market loves it. So I do think maybe we may see more of that kind of shit happen. But I don't think. I think to this extent, they know if they scrap this shit, they will never buy back the goodwill. They would fuck themselves over. And I mean Warner Brothers.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, but yeah, we'll just see until
I think
said,
we'll see it.
until I see it actually out there. I mean, they haven't released the Flash yet. They keep saying they're going to release it.
Well, and what we were referencing with the good word of mouth, there have been so many test screenings, and for those that may not be familiar with test screenings, when you go to a test screening, you're not seeing the completed film. You may get to a point where it says special effects to come, and you may see a storyboard animation or something that at least tells you. And even with that, and with a temporary score and things still to be done, the test scores on it supposedly are just through the roof. So what's the release date on it? I know it's supposed to be coming, and there's going to be during the Super Bowl. There's a new ad for it that's coming
one?
to The Flash.
Oh no, I just told you June.
Is it June?
June 16th.
Okay.
That's what I said up here.
So I mean,
June 16th.
and I think
I just giggled because I was thinking when I was at Zeus this week, I was looking at the Batman stand-up that you have there, and if you look at the bottom, you see all the movies that are going to be released. And it's got the Flash, it's got Aquaman, and then Shazam. It's like, oh well, someday they'll be released.
I can't help but think executives at Warner Brothers, the new team, I'm just going to use them, looked at the properties they owned within DC and thought, you fucking idiots. You're comic book guys. And what I'm asking is take away your comic book stuff. Before the Marvel Universe begins, if you're looking at properties to invest in, if I said Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, then secondary Flash, Aquaman, all these things, or Spider-Man, Iron Man, Captain America, and these are at that time were not what they are now. The executives at Warner Brothers have to be looking like, we've got fucking gold that should already be diamonds. And you've basically shit on probably the most iconic comic book characters that may have ever existed. They're going to execute on this, or heads are going to fucking roll. Because you want to talk about stock that will tank. It leads everything. The stock leads all of it.
What I'm guessing from looking at this slate right now is that we're probably looking at 2023 this year being the last of the three big films that we're going to see. Right, Blue Beetle, Flash, and
old DC thing,
Shazam.
Is Blue Beetle shot yet?
Yeah,
it's done. It's coming out this fall.
Okay.
2024 looks like
the new
the
stuff.
breathing year. 2025 is when Superman starts. Now, it says that he is currently working on Superman, therefore he cannot do Peacemaker Season 2. So what they're doing is they're doing Waller in between that, using some of the same characters from Peacemaker. And it says it's being written by one of the Watchmen writers, Crystal Henry. So that could be really, really good.
Yeah.
Along with Jeremy Carver, who created the Doom Patrol show, which is actually a really good show. So it sounds like Waller will be probably the first thing we really see as a part of his project. But if you've already seen Peacemaker, you already know what you're getting. Yeah. And then we'll get the Superman in 2025, and from that's where we springboard after that.
Well, I think that when we talked about Peacemaker, and I didn't know anything about Peacemaker prior to that film and then the subsequent TV show, that show had a depth and a sweetness to it that you did not expect from it.
Correct.
And I think if he brings that, the guy made good Guardians of the Galaxy films. He's made a good couple of films for DC. If he can bring that same aesthetic to this will work.
Yeah.
And I think that that's one thing that Snyder's didn't have is he didn't have the humanity at the core of it.
Speaking real quick to get off to a side note, speaking of depth and humanity that you did not expect to see, Last of Us Episode 3, I did not expect to have my tear ducts cramp. And
So I know you don't have a PlayStation, right?
No.
So you never played the game.
I've seen, basically I've
Cutscenes.
watched the game on
Right.
YouTube, but I've not played it. No, so.
I went into it knowing so very little, and so when I heard this was coming, and then I heard it was by the guy leading it up that did Chernobyl. And have you watched Chernobyl?
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen that, Richard?
Yeah, it was great.
I mean, and it is, my only quibble with that is that they all speak with not just English, but like English accents instead of Russian. Though a car will go through blaring out Russian warnings, but when we cut to the inside, they're speaking English. It's like that quibble. I wish they had just gotten Russian-speaking actors.
Yeah.
But it is an astounding piece. Holy shit. I did not expect somebody to be able to take a fungal zombie thing and make
just
me
have
be in my
me-
room going,
And apparently there's a longer cut of it. It's like, go
oh,
ahead
yeah,
and
they
just
said
put
it was
it
like
out
a
there.
2 plus hour cut.
Go ahead and just beat me up for 2 hours, please.
Well, those two men, I mean,
they were great.
Yes.
They were phenomenal.
I just, within minutes, I thought, okay, so you're going to show me my two protagonists for about 3 minutes at the start of it, and then I'm going to know a whole different story that has almost nothing to do with it, except that, once again, science fiction, science fantasy, whatever it may be, allows you to strip away the context of societal rules and think about that when everything goes to hell because of a fungus that kills people, two people that some people may look at and go, it's wrong, can live a life of love.
Also, it was just a normal relationship because I love the fact it went from, oh my God, this is the best dinner ever, to cut to 3 years later. It's like, fuck you, you asshole. I'm going to do this anyway.
I did too.
Because it's like a real relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just thought the two of them were phenomenally
Oh.
great.
Right, well, again, our audience is we just watched the first 3 episodes of
Yeah.
Last of Us. Our audience probably already watched all 9 episodes.
Well, no, this
I don't
is
know. We're
actually-
actually kind of
depending
up on our
Are we?
cash.
We kind of run out of buffer, so like this is going to be the closest to recorded to broadcast.
Okay.
But yeah,
So we are currently, we've got 1 week in the bank. We'll have this one. So 2 weeks from now, they'll listen.
Oh,
to
okay,
this,
cool,
yeah.
awesome.
But then we plan after next week. Next week we can only record 1 week
'Cause it's
because I
Super
do have
Bowl?
a Super Bowl party. I've got to like leave here and go clean the house so my wife doesn't kill me.
Football.
Hey, love my
I have to
football.
go to 2 Super Bowl parties to split it up between family. I don't
So,
care about it
but
either.
then after that, we're going to do 2 weeks at a time, and we'll get back ahead of everything.
We'll get some buffer built.
But yeah, they're going to be on it. You're so sleepy.
I have
want you
been
to go home and
yawning
take a
all
nap.
he,
morning
he has
long.
not slept all week, Todd. He is tired.
I played a gig Friday night, didn't get home till late. Had to get up early yesterday, and I told Shelly midday, I was like, I love you. I'm not going out tonight unless I go home and sleep. I never take naps. I went home, took like a 2.5 hour nap. I was just
I told my workout partner Auntie we'd go work out at 2:00, and I got to do groceries before then. And I'm just like, I just want to sit on the
Fuck
couch.
groceries.
I just want to sit on the couch and watch movies. I don't want to do anything.
That does sound like a fun day.
Yeah.
yeah. Anybody got anything else?
No, I just got a sleeping Gertie in my lap. I wish you'd do this during the whole podcast. It'd be so much easier.
Oh, I am going to throw out, because I saw her last night. If you like good music, Margot Price, somebody that I saw at South by Southwest years ago, she is a mix of Loretta Lynn, Tammy Wynette, not too much Dolly Parton. Why am I? There's, oh my God, because I want to think of the name. I can't think of it. But that classic country, but one of the smartest lyricists, will break your heart. And some of her stories are true. Saw her last night. She's fantastic. If you like good music like that, please go check her out. She has a brand new album out that is just phenomenal. Margot Price.
All right.
All right, there it is. Love you guys. Have a great weekend, everyone. See you later.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.